What's going on, squad? It's GooberTroy here, and as I promised, I would be making some in-depth guides for the classes that I will be playing in Swords of Legends Online. And today, one of the classes I'm playing is the Slayer Berserker, so that's the melee DPS spec. So in this guide, I'm going to be focusing more exclusively on the charge build because I think it's a simpler build to play. And if it's simpler to play, I think many people are going to have an easier time picking that up, obviously, and therefore you're going to find more success in PVE content with that. So again, I will be focusing on that. So if you're looking for a Phantom build, unfortunately, I'm not very well practiced at it, so I can't really give an accurate representation. But with that out of the way, let's look at some of the skills and then jump right into it. So for our basic attack, we have Wind Cleaver, and this is a simple 3-attack combo, which provides a little buff here called Terror Wind, and this increases the charge speed of our Cloud Ripper, so we can get faster charge levels and just do our damage quicker, basically. As for Cloud Ripper, this is our main damage source. It consumes this resource called Strike, and you generate Strike with Wind Cleaver and the next ability Solar Rider. But the more Strike you consume, the more damage this Cloud Ripper is going to consume. And with the charge build, you only have to charge it one level. So as you see here, it just charges up one time. That's because of an Astral Blessing, which I'll go over a little bit later. So that makes it easier to actually get those higher damaging charge levels for your Cloud Rippers. Moving on to Solar Rider, this is our edge consumer, and with this build, whenever you use Solar Rider, you generate 20 edge, as you can see here. So you can kind of just keep spamming it and quickly get up to 100, but getting up to 100 strike is a little expensive for the edge, so keep that in mind. The next skill I want to go over is called, they kind of go hand in hand. It's Killing Without a Trace and Phantom Storm. Killing Without a Trace will summon these few phantoms, and Phantom Storm basically commands them. So you can command your phantoms to charge a target, and then eventually they will all explode or do like a little combo attack. You can also trigger earlier so they actually deal their damage sooner than their expiration. But yeah, that's how Killing Without a Trace and Phantom Storm works. The nice thing about Killing Without a Trace is it actually generates a little bit of edge, and it gets better with our Astral Blessings, which again I will cover in just a moment. There's also a skill called Return of the Wolf, which generates some edge and creates 3 phantoms. So as you can see here, and it creates 3 phantoms, so you can charge those, but you can also do this chunky hit. So that's the biggest the biggest plus of Return of the Wolf, is that it has that really chunky hit included, and it's really bursty for AoE, and just an overall really good skill, low cooldown and everything. So yeah, great to remember, use on cooldown. And as for like our longer cooldowns, first we have Overlord, and this causes our Cloud Rippers to basically get overcharged and deal an insane amount of damage. I'll kind of cover this a little bit later because again, it's very important to how this build functions, and yeah, it kind of gets altered by a few things. As for our other cooldown, it's called Windbreaker, and when we activate this, it causes our main attack, Wind Cleaver, to just attack a lot faster and generate extra strikes. So, for example, if I'm hitting Wind Cleaver right now, it kind of goes a little slow, right? I'm just kind of going through the combo. It takes a little bit to get to a reasonable level of strike. But if I pop this cooldown, watch how fast I attack. And I'm already like at max strike. It makes it makes you go berserk. It's a really good cooldown. Okay, so as for the Astral Blessings themselves, let's get into those. The first one is Sun Shooting Style, and this first blessing alters our Solar Rider, and this is what actually causes it to generate strike. The next one we'll look at is called Scary Sky, and this increases the damage of Cloud Ripper and this is what really makes it consume or deal more damage as you consume additional strikes. So yeah, this Scary Sky really plays into the Cloud Ripper playstyle, increases the damage quite a bit. And this third blessing is called Traceless Phantom, and this increases the amount of strikes generated with Killing Without a Trace. Normally, I think Killing Without a Trace gives you 10 edge or 10 strike. With this passive, it now generates 30, so it's a big boost in strike generation. But the other big thing is it causes our Cloud Ripper to, instead of charging to a level 3, so let me show that real quick, is you can charge it, I don't know if you can read this, it says Cloud Ripper level 3, so it does this little spin animation. But if I use Killing Without a Trace and then charge a Cloud Ripper, it says Cloud Ripper level 4, and then it does this overhead slam and it does a lot more damage. So yeah, Killing Without a Trace is a good form of burst when you have this Traceless Phantom passive. The next blessing, this is where like the charge build really comes into play. And this passive is called Overlord, and this is where so normally your normal cooldown is this little, I don't even know, it just generates an extra phantom, and if you use Phantom Storm, you can do this little thing. I'll try to do it really quick just to give an idea. So if I cause all the phantoms to charge here and I use Vortex style, you do this little animation where you charge. It doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. I mean, it's decent burst, but it's really not what the charge build is meant to play around. So the Overlord build, this replaces that Vortex style with Overlord style, and this is what gives you like really meaty, chunky Cloud Rippers. For this cooldown, it causes you to generate charge level 4 Cloud Rippers on command. So yeah, it's just you get on-demand burst whenever you activate one of these. The last passive alters our Windbreaker Wine, and with this supping from the river, whenever you're in the Windbreaker stance, or that cooldown is active, that's what causes your Wind Cleaver to generate bonus strikes. It increases the strike generation by 100%, but it also increases Cloud Ripper damage and charge speed by 20%. So while you're in this cooldown, your Cloud Rippers are going to be doing extra damage. You're going to be getting more Cloud Rippers. So basically Overlord and Windbreaker Wine, they pair very well. As for the glyphs, the first one I want to go over is Dark Forest Swaying Grass, and this alters Overlord specifically. Normally, Overlord is around a 2-minute cooldown that lasts for, I think, 20 seconds and just gives you 6 total charges of Overlord. But with this passive, it reduces Overlord to 2 stacks, and it has a 30-second recharge per stack. So basically it means it gives you 1 singular Overlord charge, but on a 30-second cooldown. And the other thing that's very important for this passive is it alters your Solar Rider, specifically when you're using the sun shooting style. It reduces the cooldown of both Overlord and Windbreaker Wine by, I think, 2 seconds. The cooldown of Overlord and Windbreaker is also reduced by 2 seconds. So whenever you use Solar Rider, it'll reduce your big cooldown, so you get them up more often. So pretty good, well, really good, and you should be using this for any charge build. So the other passive is actually, it should be Cloud Riding. This causes you to just passively regenerate edge. You get 2 points of edge every second, and just overall really good for sustaining our resources in general. And yeah, just very good passive to have. Pretty basic though. The next one to go over is Dense Forest, and this, every time you use a Cloud Ripper, your next 3 Windbreaker or a Wind Cleaver, they are very fast. So normally, like, this is what Wind Cleaver looks like. This is a pretty slow animation, But here's what it looks like after a Cloud Ripper. So it's much faster, and considering how much you're going to be using Cloud Ripper, it's a very, very solid passive to have. And lastly, we have Torn Clouds, and the tooltip for this is a little weird, but it basically means that whatever strike level you're consuming for your Cloud Rippers, add 10 to it. So in this case, I have 25 currently. If I were to use a Cloud Ripper, it would be 25 plus 10, so 35. This is very important with Scary Sky, because if you read this last portion, it says, if the number of charged strikes exceeds 55, the damage is increased by an additional 24%, and Torn Clouds can affect this. So that means when you're going through with your rotation, you want to be using a minimum of 45 strikes whenever you're using a Cloud Ripper, because that triggers this 24% damage increase. So those are the blessings and the glyphs. And now I quickly want to go over our stat priorities, and this mostly comes from the community, but our stat priority is Mastery, which is basically just an improvement of Cloud Ripper and Phantom damage. It just increases the damage dealt by those two damage resources by percentage. And next up is Agility, and this is just our kind of our main stat, and it just increases our physical strength by just different values. Next we have Physical Strength, which comes off of various pieces, and this will just increase our attacks because we're a physical damage dealer. And next will be Critical Hit, and lastly is Haste. Haste really doesn't do anything for us. It just kind of increases the charge speed and edge regeneration. Well, considering we're not really starved on edge with this build, it really doesn't affect us. For this next section, I want to go over the damage rotations, both for bursting and sustained damage. First, we're going to start off with the burst, and this will be for things like your opener or whenever your cooldowns are available and how you kind of can prepare for those. So starting off, for an opener, you want to use 2 Solar Riders. This will give us 40 edge, and then you want to follow that up with a Killing Without a Trace and Return of the Wolf. This will give us 100 strikes, so we can use a level 4 Cloud Ripper, the Return of the Wolf, like the big hit part of that, and you can have all of your Phantoms kind of converge for a big hit. So when you do that in an opener, though, you can also use Windbreaker Wine. So to show how that looks, you can start off by charging in, and you will use 2 Solar Strikes, or Solar Riders, Killing Without a Trace, Return of the Wolf, do the actual Return of the Wolf strike, and then cause all your Phantoms to converge and do their combo. And then you want to use Windbreaker Wine and Cloud Ripper, and then from here we will pop Overlord, use a second Overlord, and then from here your rotation during Windbreaker Wine is going to be to use Wind Cleaver, the 6 times total, I guess, and then it'll be 1 Solar Rider. So it's like Wind Cleaver, Wind Cleaver, Wind Cleaver, do that combo twice, and then Solar Rider. That'll give us 96 strikes, and then you lose a Cloud Ripper off of that. So that's kind of how that whole burst rotation works. And for the sustain, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but because of Scary Sky, you want to have a minimum of 45 strike in order to get the benefit of that 24% damage increase. So this means that our kind of sustain combo will look a little bit like this. It'll be 3 Wind Cleavers, so 3 Wind Cleavers, and then it'll be 2 Solar Riders. If you don't crit with the Wind Cleaver, you'll usually have 59 strikes, but I landed a crit, which gave me some bonus. So again, that'll look like this: 2 Solar Riders, and there's 59, and then Cloud Ripper. So just kind of repeat that whole process, and there you go. There will be moments though where your edge is a little low, and to kind of get around this, you want to do 3 wind cleavers. So 3 wind cleavers like that, and then you'll follow it up with a solar rider, and then you'll use 2 wind cleavers. This will usually give you around 49 strikes. And yeah, that's kind of the quickest way to get above that 45 threshold that I found. So that's kind of how the burst and the sustain rotations will look. Of course, when you're killing without a trace and Return of the Wolf are coming off cooldown, you can kind of go into these little mini burst phases where it kind of looks like our opener, basically, where you just do 2 solar riders for 40, and then Killing Without a Trace and Return of the Wolf and a level 4 Cloud Ripper, and that's basically how that little burst component works there. So those kind of cover the 3 little phases. There's the sustain, the mini burst, and the like mega hyper burst, I guess. I don't know what you want to call that. So yeah, that kind of covers everything that the Slayer has to offer though, especially for the charge build. Again, I'm sorry that I don't really know the Phantom build too well. I will definitely try to learn, and if I find something that works, I'll try to put a guide together for that as well. But hopefully you guys enjoy this, found this helpful. I got my Reaper leveled up, so I will be putting out an assassin build or a guide and an occultist guide. I don't play Drunken Master, and I don't really plan on tanking because it's kind of something that I'm not too comfortable with, so I don't really feel like I would be able to provide a lot of valuable information there. So unfortunately, I won't be covering the Drunken Master, but I will be covering a healing spec, which is the occultist Reaper, and the assassin Reaper, which is the DPS spec. So keep an eye out for that, and thank you guys so much for all the support. I really, really appreciate it. You guys have really helped my channel grow exponentially. So yes, thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. But I'm GooberTroy, reminding everyone to squad up and have fun.